Hey everybody, my name's Andrew Woodward and I want to welcome you to the re-recording of part 3 of DIY hydroponics and indoor growing. And what happened was last night I had a live broadcast and I'm still getting used to all this new equipment and somehow I forgot to hit the record button. So today I'm back to redo last night's show. But between last night and now, I thought of a lot of things that I wish I had said last night and a few things that I figured I really didn't even need to talk about last night. So today's broadcast is a little bit more concise and a little bit more focused as far as everything you'll need to know to actually put together a DIY system aeroponically. So what you see in front of you is a rig, I'll call it a rig that I built about a year ago, and its purpose was to do exactly what we're doing today, to demonstrate the principles of aeroponics, specifically as a branch of hydroponics. So aeroponics is different in that precisely that you are actually delivering the nutrient solutions through a spray head rather than dripping the solution onto the roots. So that's really the only fundamental difference. And it's a closed system. So the nutrient solution, which I colored blue here just for demonstration purposes, always stays inside the system. The only time that water leaves the system, a closed system, is when the plant respires. It releases moisture or water through its leaves, or when the plant actually uses it for its own growth. And this is why aeroponics is considered the most conservative with water of any of the hydroponic methods, because it is a closed, in this case, it is a closed system. And just by the way, side note, this is very similar to the type of system that's being looked at for use on the mission to Mars, because it uses a very small amount of water and it doesn't waste anything. It's a completely closed recycling system, and that's very advantageous on a long trip to Mars. You want everything to be recyclable, and this is a good system for that. Good system for growing food as well, because as you probably know, aeroponics is extremely fast. Once it's tuned, it's the fastest way to grow that is known. Even faster than most of the other hydroponic methods. Depends who's growing, really. But ultimately, aeroponics is seen as the most efficient and the fastest growing. And that's, again, another reason why it was being looked at, why it is being looked at as a technology to help us get to Mars and back. So, with that being said, I'm going to demonstrate this. Now I'm going to turn this on in a second. What you're going to see, a couple things going on here. Right in the front here, I'm going to turn this camera on. In the front here, you'll see there are two timers. The one on the left is the timer that controls the pump. Where am I? Here I am. The pump for the nutrient solution. So when this pump turns on, it's going to pull the solution from the tank over here through the motor, and then it's going to send it over here into a spray nozzle. Okay. The other timer here, where I am, just control my finger backwards here. Okay. The other timer here, timer 2, is controlling the return of the nutrient solution back to the nutrient solution tank. So once it's done over here spraying the roots, that pump will turn on and return the solution back to the nutrient tank, thus completing one cycle. Okay, so what we're going to see is the blue liquid making its path in the first journey over to the sprayer, and that'll happen pretty quickly. And then a few moments later, at exactly 1 minute actually, I have it set for 30 seconds and 1 minute. So at 30 seconds it sprays, and at 1 minute it returns the solution back to the nutrient tank. So let's check it out. I'm going to grab the power cord here. Looks like it fell down. Yep. Fell down. Tried to be fully prepared. There you go. Okay, here we go. I'm going to turn it on. You'll see the timers. Yep. And then you will see in a few moments that it'll turn on. You'll see the blue go through this clear hose, make its journey over to the pump, from the pump over to the sprayer, and then it'll spray inside of here, which you have to imagine that there are plant roots here. I just took a little cutting here to show you that this is where the plant grows. Imagine that the roots are hanging down inside this chamber, and they're about to get dosed with a good dose of nutrient solution, and it's about to happen. There we go. There it goes. You can see it traveling down to the pump, up and over, and now it's giving the plants a dose, And then exactly, I believe I have it set for, yes, 30 seconds later, it turns on the return, which will pull the fluid from the bottom of the grow chamber up and over through the pump, up and down, and then return it to the nutrient tank. And watch how it disturbs the solution in the nutrient tank. Look at that. Spraying again. There we go. It completed one full cycle. Now, why I mentioned to look at this solution as it's being returned is because you do always want to aerate your nutrient solution. That's really critical in aeroponics and hydroponics. You need that solution to stay aerated to prevent the really nasty bacteria from growing in there, which it will want to do in a warm, wet environment. If you're not careful and don't aerate it, that can happen. It can get really funky on you. So, spraying again. Also notice it's a 360-degree pattern. It's spraying all the way around the outside. So if there were roots in there, all of the roots would be getting drenched, not just one side of them. And there are different types of nozzles available for hydroponics, many different types, and we'll take a look at those more closely in a moment. But this is a very inexpensive way to go. What you're looking at here, watch out again, yeah, that disturbing that water. That's all it takes to keep water or nutrient solution aerated, by the way. You don't need a bubbler or an air stone or anything like that. You can use an air stone, but you can just as easily disturb the water regularly, and that provides the oxygenation necessary. Actually, a bubbler like you would use in aquariums, or you would stick one in your nutrient tank, those bubbles are not what's adding the air to the water. What's adding most of the oxygen to the water is when the bubbles rise up and disturb the surface. It's the surface of the water that's absorbing most of the oxygen. So all you have to do is keep breaking the surface tension on the top of the water, and you're aerating it. That's how that works. There we go, another spray, and then it'll turn on in a moment. It'll return back to the tank, and then I'm going to suspend it for a moment just so we can keep talking. But this is a really good demonstration, or a really good example of a system for this talk, because it's very inexpensive. Everything you're looking at here, including the timers, the pumps, the hose, the sprayers, the fittings, the wire, the electrical connectors, all of this I estimated to be about $50. And these parts, like I said, are very inexpensive. They're also in the description. If you look down in the description, there is an Amazon section and there is an AliExpress section. And that is literally where I bought all of the parts that you're looking at here today to build this system. Now, obviously, this is not the actual system that you would build to grow something, because it's, well, I guess you could technically, but it wouldn't be very good for that. The reason being, couple reasons. Because these containers are clear, they would have a tendency to grow algae and other things potentially too, but algae being the most troublesome, and that wouldn't be any good for anything, because the algae is also a plant and it will take nutrients and oxygen out of the nutrient solution, and you're trying to get it to the plant that you want to grow. So growing algae is not advantageous. So clear containers wouldn't be any good. Also, the clear tubing, for the exact same reasons, would have a tendency, if it's in the light all the time, would have a tendency to grow algae and eventually become clogged, so much that the solution wouldn't travel through, or the algae would break free and would just cause problems in the fittings and the tubings and everything else. So it not much better, but very important to remember that light is kind of the enemy everywhere except where it's hitting the leaves. Everywhere else in a hydroponic or aeroponic system, you really want it to be light proof. And you can achieve that many different ways. You can paint it, or you can cover it in black paper, or you can cover it in reflective material, or anything you want, really. You just have to keep the light from getting to it so you don't grow that algae. Okay, so these, I'm going to talk about these parts individually here. So these fittings here that you see, these 90-degree elbows, normally I use a type of fitting that looks more like this, the white here. No, that's the one, yeah. Okay, so let me move this over a little bit so you can see this. These white fittings here, these are made out of plastic and they're waterproof, and they're actually normally used in the reverse osmosis water filtration business. So if you've ever seen those water filters that you can install under your sink, and they filter your water with 5 different filters and gives you really nice drinking water, which is also great for hydroponics, by the way, reverse osmosis water filtration systems. Anyway, those use these white fittings, and these white fittings are fantastic for hydroponics as well as reverse osmosis. Anything that comes in contact with food or water needs to be safe. That's another thing I wanted to talk about, is that all of these components are safe for food and water. In fact, these pumps, I'm going to turn this off right now just for a little bit. In fact, these pumps are, these are actually designed, well, you can use them for anything having to do with the food industry or water transportation, but these are commonly used in things like coffee machines and dishwasher type machines, and anywhere where you're moving a small amount of water from one place to another is where you'll find these being used. So in a coffee machine, it would be used to refill the reservoir, or things like that. In the big restaurant versions of these machines is what I'm talking about. So these are safe for food. That's what that means. And you'll see in the listing, typically if it's a decent supplier, you'll see food safe, the words food safe or safe for food written in the description somewhere. And you really should look for that. Also, the tubing, which I'm using here, again, it's clear for demonstration purposes, but what you would be using in, well, all hydroponic and aeroponic installations is tubing similar to this. And this is a nylon tubing. It comes in big spools. You can get it anywhere from 10 feet up to 1,000 feet, I suppose. You can get as much of this as you want. So it's just, you just cut off however much you need off of the spool. And I keep it wrapped up so it doesn't go everywhere, because believe me, it wants to go everywhere. But this is very soft and very flexible, and it works very well for food and water. It's completely food safe, obviously. And also it is standardized in its size. What I mean by that is that in aeroponics, hydroponics, and like we were talking about, reverse osmosis, you often have these fittings that are called quick disconnects, okay? And they look like, I'm just gonna take one off here. Here we go. That was quick, hence quick disconnect. All right, so here's a fitting. This is a valve. I'll show you a better angle here. Whoops. Sorry, I just need to turn this one back on. There it is. Okay, there we go. So this is a valve. You can see you turn it on, turn it off, like that, right? Water goes in one side, goes out the other side. And what I wanted to show you actually was how this tubing just fits right in, just like that, and then you're done. And to take it out, you just push down on this little collar, and then you pull it out. I've gotten pretty good at it over the years just by doing it with my fingers, because I do it so often, but there is actually a tool made to allow you to do that. But you can go just like that, done. Disconnect it, same thing on the other side. It's great. Now this is a 1/4 inch inside diameter for this tubing, and this is the stuff that you really will use a lot of. So that's why, you know, I get, anytime I buy these fittings and the tubing, I get a whole lot of them at one time so that I have something to work with, because they're inexpensive. And usually they come in packs, like these sorts of things come in packs of 5 or 10 or 20, however many you want. It's that way on AliExpress. You can order in large quantities, even larger quantities on Alibaba. But that's when you're more into the supply end of things, where you're ordering 1,000 of something. That would be Alibaba. AliExpress is for ordering these types of parts when you only want to order 1 or 2 or 5 or something like that. So AliExpress is great. Now, well, yeah, I could show you some of these fittings. There are other types of fittings too. That you'll find on pumps, that are put on pumps. These I put on myself, but these are used in everything. And they come in all different sizes. They'll fit all different size pump fittings and so forth. And Again, they're all quick disconnect and super easy to work with, flexible, clean. They're great. Okay, so let's talk about pumps, because pumps are really the heart and soul of this whole operation. In fact, sometimes when I'm talking to people about how all this works, I compare it to a washing machine in your kitchen. Because your washing machine really is nothing more than what you see in front of you. It's a whole series of pumps and timers, and what it's doing is, well, there's also a heater to heat up the water and to dry the dishes. That's the one exception to what you see here, is that there's a heater in a dishwasher. But other than that, it's moving water around very quickly, and it's draining the water out, adding new water, and that's about it. That's really what your washing machine is doing, your dishwasher rather is doing. It's moving water around, and that's what this does. In an aeroponic or hydroponic system, you are moving water around and getting it to the plants. That's the bottom line. So the pumps, obviously, are how you get the water where it needs to go. I keep saying water, but obviously we're talking about nutrient solutions, so you can just use those terms interchangeably for this discussion. But there are different types of pumps, and only some of them work well for hydroponics and aeroponics. And it depends on how large your system is, depending on what type of pump you want to use, and also what type of system you're building. Now, the pumps that you see in front of you, these are great. And in my opinion, they could be used for just about everything in hydroponics. Just about. Not quite everything, but almost. These are called peristaltic pumps. They're called peristaltic. You may have heard that word before, actually. Peristalsis is a word you may have heard. Peristalsis is the action in your digestive system that your body uses to move food through your large and small intestine. And literally, if you imagine that one of these tubes is your intestine, not to be too graphic, but imagine that's an intestine and the blue is some food or liquid or whatever that you might have consumed. Peristalsis is basically the muscles in your body doing this, pinching the tube and moving the fluid through by pushing it, by pinching and pushing. That's peristalsis. So what these pumps are actually doing inside here, where you can't see in the magic zone in there, is there's a motor that's turning, and on the end of the motor is a wheel, and on the outside of the wheel are these little nubs. And as the wheel turns, these little nubs push the fluid through the tubing continually, right? So here's the important thing. The pump innards, the pump mechanics, never come in contact with the nutrient solution. All they do is come in contact with the outside of its own little built-in tube in there. And that's important because there's a tendency in hydroponics, aeroponics to have little bits of matter that come from here and there. It could be roots that break off, something like that. Very small pieces that might escape any filtration that you're using. And with these types of pumps, that won't be a problem. It will just squeeze whatever's in that solution right on through, as long as it's not too large. Squeeze it right on through, no problem, and you'll carry on and your plants will get what they need. With other types of pumps, the solution is making contact with an impeller or a little fan blade inside the workings of the pump. And that can become, well, corroded, or it can become jammed, or it can just otherwise break down over time because it's a moving part with a lot going on. And that's the sort of thing you want to avoid. So these peristaltic pumps are fantastic for avoiding a lot of the problems with typical pumps. And also, they do a really good job of lifting water. Not as good as some other pumps, I will say, but they're pretty good. They're pretty strong at lifting the water a foot or two above where you need it, which is great. Here's the other thing, and this is the most critical factor, is that in a hydroponic or aeroponic system, your pumps must be self-priming. I cannot stress, I'm going to say it again. In a hydroponic or aeroponic system, your pumps must be self-priming. Here's why. Because if you imagine that this is turning on, if we had real plants growing in here, this is turning on maybe for 5 seconds or 10 seconds every 10 minutes, let's say. Well, in that 10-minute time, in between cyclings, The water can, depending on how the system is set up, the water can drain back down to the reservoir tank. And if your pumps are not self-priming, they lose their prime in that 10 minutes. And then when the pump starts up again, there's no fluid there for it to pump. And then your plants die. Ask me how I know. So yeah, you want pumps that are self-priming, and when you're dealing with smaller aeroponic systems, hydroponic systems like this for the household, you're talking about a much smaller pump. Something that's more reasonably sized, more reasonably priced, and really adaptable to whatever situation you have. Whether you're making a real system or a demonstration for YouTube, you really can use these pumps in a variety of ways. So I highly recommend them. Again, they're only a couple of bucks on AliExpress. Buy a bunch of them and play around with them, and you'll love them. They're fantastic. They're 12 volt. So you do need a 12 volt sound source, 12 volt power source, and I can show you those little boxy adapters that you see. I might even have one here. Yeah, I'll show you in a minute. Little boxy adapters that you can get for every type of electronics known. You just want one that's 12 volts. That doesn't even have to be more than half an amp. 500 milliamps or an amp is fine. You'll never need something more powerful. These don't use a lot of energy. In fact, I can run this entire system off of a small battery pack, which I have sitting behind the camera here, which is just a little portable battery pack used to charge up phones and things like that. Well, it puts out 12 volts, and it will run this entire system for, I'm not sure how long, because I never had it on long enough to run it out, but for many, many hours at the very least. So these components are very safe to use because they're low voltage, 12 volt. That's the other thing. Always, when you're buying these components, decide what you want to do. 12 volts or 24 are the two most common. I recommend 12. There's no reason not to stick with 12 with these smaller systems. So make sure whatever you buy, that being said, that everything is 12 volts DC. That's what you're looking for. Okay, so your timers, 12 volts DC. Pumps, 12 volts DC. Power supply, 12 volts DC. Always 12 volts DC for these types of experiments. Okay, and well, also for a fully built out system, I never go beyond 12 volts for those. They're always 12 volts. So let's take a look at these pumps. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to slide this over just a bit so I can show you some of these pumps on camera. I'm also going to show you a few spray nozzles because they are equally vital for the mission. Obviously, the spray nozzles where all the action's happening. And you do have to make sure you have the right kind, and you want to make sure you're using them in the right way. But beyond that, they're very easy to work with. Okay. So the first type of pump we let's see, is this a, yes, that is a, nope, that's a valve. All right, well, let me take this camera. Yep. All right. Now, let me start with the pump, sorry. Okay. So we were talking about how it has to be the right kind of pump. Well, there are different types of pumps. There's the peristaltic pump that we've already talked about. And there are also, let's adjust the focus a little bit here. There we go. There are also what are called circulation pumps. Now these things, basically all they do is they move water continually. And this you might find in a solar water heating system or an underfloor heating system, the type where it sends hot water or hot oil underneath your floor and it heats up the entire floor. They use pumps like this to circulate the solution. But the problem is they are not self-priming. They're great, they last a long time, they're extremely durable and very well made, and they do their job well, but they're not self-priming. So they're great for other things, but not really for hydroponics. So let's forget about that. Then, and you know, the thing is too, you got to keep in mind, they come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, these pumps that will not work well. This is actually, so this is a peristaltic pump. This is a different style of peristaltic pump. But these circulation pumps do come in other, here's one. Circulation pumps do come in other configurations, but again, their big downside is that they don't self-prime. These are both solar circulation pumps, and I don't use them anymore because they don't do what I need them to do. So forget about those. and stick with the peristaltic. And with this, depending on how you build your system, I'm going to just introduce you to this next idea. You also combine these occasionally with a 12-volt water valve. Now this water valve is very simple. It has two little terminals on it here. You can see two terminals there. Those two terminals, positive and negative, for your, here, let me give you an even better view here. So positive and negative. Where are we? There we are. Positive and negative terminals. And again, you have the in and the out, just like you have with the pump. But this, the job of this thing is, see if I can get a little better focus on here. Okay. The job of this thing is basically when you apply power to it, it opens it up and lets the water flow. Okay, so if you have, for example, we can get into this later, but if you have a system that works using gravity to return the solution back down to the nutrient tank, a valve can be used after your cycling is done to open up and let the solution all drain back using gravity. And these are very convenient for tasks like that. It's a very simple device, again, 12 volts, $3, $4, not even, maybe $2 or $3 if you shop the right place. But there it is, water valve, 6.5 watts, DC, 12 volts, there you go. And these also, same thing, these are used in the food industry for transporting food and water, or liquids, and letting them get released into tanks and things like that. So yeah, they're very safe, food safe and all that, and you won't have anything to worry about with that. So then we have, let's see here, then we have some sprayers, which are equally important. Obviously, I'm going to show you a couple different kinds here. Let's go to this one. Nope, let's go to that one. Okay, so the first thing we have here, and this is an aeroponic air-driven atomizer. What all that fanciness means is that, and I don't know if you're familiar with an airbrush, but an airbrush is essentially this. It's a little gizmo that combines fluid with air and then sends it out as a spray. Okay, now this is a little more complicated than the system that we just demonstrated here today, because the system we demonstrated here today, there's no air involved. There's just liquid under a slight amount of pressure, and that's what creates your spray. With this type of sprayer, you're looking at feeding your solution in, just like you are with the system here we were looking at before, the demo model. Feeding liquid just like that to the spray head, but then you also have an air line, and that air line has to be about 40 pounds per square inch of compressed air. And that gets more complicated. I will do some videos on constructing that type of system if you want me to. I have a couple of them sitting around here we could use as demos, but this type of system is really awesome because it gives you a very, very small droplet size. And see if I can get a better angle on this. Very, very small droplet size. And the atomization is very efficient. Now, the reason there's any talk about this, or anybody even bothers putting more complicated air-driven systems into work, is because they, well, I don't know how to say this without sounding a bit speculative, but there is reason to believe, based on some research going on right now, that if the droplet size is smaller, which is only really achievable using one of these, compressed air and the liquid, if the droplet size is small enough that the plant's roots can uptake it more efficiently, because the plant roots take up the nutrient solution through what's called capillary action. And if the particles are smaller, if the droplets are smaller, that capillary action is easier for the roots. And it increases the efficiency of the root uptake. That's the running theory. I don't know that there's any good data that's been proven, but that's the running theory. But it has been shown that you can get faster results and very great results with any hydroponic system, but with the compressed air and the smaller droplet size, it's a little bit of an advantage. So I do experiment with them, and I've had tremendous luck. I'm being honest, I've had really good luck. In fact, I'm going to show you some photos of a system that I put together and some plants that I grew that used that methodology, and it was tremendous. But for the purpose of building one simply at home, like we're showing you in the demo here today, I want to show you these little tiny, where are we? Here we are. Little tiny spray nozzles. Okay, let me see if I can get it. There we go. Okay, so this one here you're looking at is 180 degrees. What that means is the spray comes out of this little groove right here. And because that little groove is only half of a circle, you can see it only sprays out the one side. It just comes out this way. Right? The other side, which is closed, doesn't come out that side. Just comes out that side. Right? So that's a 180 degree spray nozzle. Now on the other side of that, there are some threads. See if I can get this on camera. Yeah, there are some threads there. I think you can see that. So what you do, very simple, and there are lots of ways to use these as well, but the way that I use them in my systems is that you've got your tubing, and literally you can just screw this right into the tubing. It's amazing. It's almost as if it was made for it. Okay, so then you have a very secure, very watertight, nice tight seal, and you can run this line to your pump, and then you are spraying water, spraying nutrient solution. Brilliant. And also you can use them in any position. They can spray down, they can spray up, they can spray to the side, they can spray anywhere you need them to spray. And they're available in packs on AliExpress for, oh geez, I don't know, 50 for $10 or something like that. It's ridiculous. They're so cheap. So yeah, there you go. There's that kind. And then we have, I'll just pull this out here from our demo unit. I'll show you this one. This is 180 degree. And you can see it's open on both sides. The spray nozzle here, it's open on both sides, right? So it's just going equally out of all sides, 360 degree. Great. And here you can see again the plastic connectors that are used in reverse osmosis. And we're using a piece of tubing right here. We can control the length, take it as far down into the chamber as we want, or keep it way up high, which is actually what I recommend. Keep it up high so that the water drains down and it hits the roots way up at the top here by the cap. That's a good idea. So yeah, there you go. And the other thing I do use a lot for these types of installations is these foam collars. And that's how, with the help of another little gizmo that fits on here, the collar holds your plants gently and still allows the roots to dangle down below, but will not harm your plant because they're nice and spongy and, you know, they're soft. They just fit around like that. You just open them up, fit it around your plant collar, stick it on there, and you're good to go, right? That's how that works. Okay, so those are your sprayers. Timers. Let's talk about timers. Yeah, they're fun. All right, here we go. The last major component of this talk is the timers. Okay, so two timers on the front, two timers on the front here that you saw working earlier. I'm gonna turn it back on, but I should probably plug it in so I don't get water everywhere. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna turn that back on for a second. Boom. Okay, is it on? Yes, it's on. There we go. Okay, now timers. Like I said, $3-4 a piece on AliExpress, and if you look at these things up close, they are extremely simple. Okay, so if you look closely at these timers, they have some really critical information on here that you're going to want to know about. So on the back here, there we go, this number right here, XYLJ02. Okay, well that number will be different on whatever kind of module you buy. Everyone will have its own unique identifying number. But that number is important because if you want the instruction manual or the programming guide or the technical specifications or the schematics or whatever, what you want to do is take this number, type it into Google, and then follow it with the word of the gizmo. If it's a timer, then put in this number and then put in the word timer. And I guarantee you, Google will show you everything that's available for this from top to bottom with that one simple search. Okay? Now, another thing I want to show you here, these are really fun to work with. They're very easy to work with too, is that everything's pretty well marked on these timers. This is essentially, if you're familiar with the idea of a relay, this timer, what it really does is it's a switch. And this is where you hook up your leads for your switch. This is called normally closed, where you have the circuit is normally closed when the timer is off, when the power is off. That's closed. So you could hook something up to these two terminals here and it would continue to run with this unit turned off. But if you hook the two leads to these two terminals, the one on the open ones here, then the thing you have hooked up to this would only run when the timer is active, when the timing cycle has run out and the timer says click and it's turning itself on. That would close these contacts and it would turn on your device. That's how these work. It's very simple. Normally open, normally closed, right? And then you do all of your programming using these 4 buttons on the front here, stop, set, up, and down. And if the display were on, I could show you all this, obviously, but they're all very similar. They usually have 4 buttons. That's pretty standard. And they're all programmed in a relatively similar way, which you just kind of have to get used to. Follow the instructions, do it a few times. It's not that big a deal. And you can set timer delays, like it'll run and stop, and then it'll wait and then start again, or you can just do an on-off cycle, or you can do a variety of different things with these timers. They're very flexible. So that's a timer for you. And also, if you wanted to, of course, you could get your timers already installed in a neat little case like they have here, but you don't have to. You can get them in just their naked form like this, and they will work just as well. And that's about all I have to say about timers. Again, there's a link down below that will show you where you can get those on AliExpress. You can also get them on Amazon. They'll be a bit more expensive, obviously. And yeah, I believe that is it. So just making sure I don't have anything else to cover here. No, I believe that's it. So before I go, I just wanted to take this opportunity to show you some of the amazing plants that are growing right behind me on what I call the green wall. We have some really nice hot peppers and some little cherry tomatoes coming in, which are looking fantastic. I'm going to turn this camera on. There we go. And I just want to show these to you. Okay, so we have, look at this hot pepper. This bad boy is about to get featured tomorrow. I'm going to be making a video and I'm going to be making some pineapple salsa, some pineapple hot pepper salsa. And I can't wait. There are actually several peppers. Whoop, stretch my cord out here. There are actually several peppers here. Look at this. Going hunting. Oh, there, we've spotted them. Look at those babies in there. Ah, it's amazing. I can't wait to make this salsa. It's going to be so good. All right, let's see. Oh, look at this too. There is, oh, I don't know if you're going to be able to, yeah, you can see it. The green pepper there, it hasn't ripened yet, but oh, that's going to be a beauty. Look at that. Oh, yeah. Oh, another one. Check that out. Oh, that's huge. Oh, that's going to be great. Then there's another, yeah, there's another red one back there. Hasn't quite ripened yet. There it is. Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. So then we have, I'm really excited about these. These are called orange hat cherry tomatoes. And they are so cool because they grow in these little bundles. They don't take a lot of space. They grow really well in these gardens. This is the Aero-Gro Genesis garden. And they look like little pumpkins. They're so adorable. So yeah, they're coming in. They're beautiful, and I can't wait to taste them. I've never had this type before, so very exciting. And also we have, whoops, more peppers over, sorry, I'm gonna get the, yep, there we go. Had a call come in right then. I'm sorry, more tomatoes over here. These are called, what's the name of these again? This is an experiment. I've never grown these before. Micro toms, these are called. And they're very similar to the orange hat. They grow in clusters and they're coming in really nicely. And I think we have, yes, we have one little tomato, actual tomato coming in. If you can see it there, about the middle of the screen, a little round dude right there. There it is. He's coming in. So yeah, they're coming in and I can't wait to see those and taste those as well. So exciting. Look at that. So healthy. All right. Then we have the old standbys. We have some purple basil. Nice to look at. Tastes really good. Very, very nice. You've probably seen it before though. More hot peppers because I love hot peppers. And more hot peppers. Yeah, they're coming in. They're coming. Whoops. They're coming along. There we go. Yeah, they're nice. And then we have some parsley going on here. Yeah, I always like parsley. Then, oh yeah. Okay, now for any of you, oh look at this. Any of you who have ordered, I'm going to get another light here, who have ordered the Aero-Gro Genesis Garden, it included a pack of tomatoes called Sakura cherry tomatoes. And that's what you are seeing here are the first Sakura tomatoes coming in for me. And yours are probably coming in too. If you bought your unit about 2 or 3 months ago, your Sakura tomatoes are probably ripening right about now. So very excited about those as well. Those are the only 2 I see so far, but boy, there are a lot more buds. There are a lot of them on the way. So that's exciting too. So yeah, that's what's going on the green wall. We'll, get back over here. Yeah. And yeah, so I will be able to show you more of those plants the next couple weeks. I will keep you up to date on those. I'm going to shut that down for now. So I want to thank you for joining me here today on this slightly more in-depth tour of aeroponics and how to set up a system for aeroponics. I would like to go into even more detail, but I had originally planned on ending this series right here, but I've now decided to continue it. So next week I'm going to come back with another show, part 4, I guess you could call it, and it'll be going into a bit more detail on how to actually assemble all of these bits and pieces. So if you guys want to go ahead and order some of these parts in the meantime, you can check out this next video and it'll show you how you can put these things together to make it work just like you see here. And in the next show, we will be making the move from the demonstration model over to the grow buckets, and we will be installing all of the little, whoops, right there, if you can see that in there, we'll be installing, I can't see it, be installing the little fittings and hoses and so forth and everything you need to make these grow buckets come to life and make your first official aeroponic system that you can use right at home, and you will grow things like you cannot imagine. It is insane. And I'm actually going to save the pictures I was going to show you today. I'm going to save those, the photographs of the plants that were grown this way, until next week, give you a reason to tune in. So until then, and I will show you those pictures next week, I absolutely promise. Until then, go ahead and order yourself some parts and check out this video again. Make sure you understand concepts. And then next week, we'll actually put one together live on the show. It's going to be amazing. Thank you for joining me. Again, do remember to like and subscribe to the channel. And if you like this kind of content, that's how you can show me that you like it. Don't forget to leave some comments down below and tell me what you want to learn about, because that's what we can cover here. Anything having to do with indoor growing, we're safe. So thank you. See you next time. Go grow something. Thanks for joining us.